All right, everyone heard that ping, and we can go ahead and get started. Thanks for joining us today. We're really excited to walk through our Monday.com for healthcare providers demo. It's built specifically to solve for challenges that the providers face every day. So just a few housekeeping things to keep us on time. We ask that you please remain muted in the call, and then any questions, definitely submit that. We do encourage that. You can use the little chat feature on the right-hand side of the window, and we'll answer those at the end of the session.
All right. Well, good morning, everybody, and thanks so much for joining. We're thrilled to have everyone here. We had over 70 healthcare provider organizations sign up for today's walkthrough, everyone from home health to mental health to PT and PCP and ABA, and even a couple orthodontics snuck in there. I am going to wear my retainer more, I promise. We're going to set the stage here, and then we're going to go through a live demo of the provider solution built on Monday.com. We know your time is valuable, mostly because we've seen your schedules. So we're excited to share how over a decade of organizational experience can help your teams work smarter and ultimately better serve your patients. So the first quick word on who we are: we're a Monday.com partner. Hopefully, right, that much is obvious. We're also an AWS partner. And you might be thinking, okay, who cares? That's a valid question. Hang on to that. We're going to touch on that in a minute. Over 10 years ago, Copperhill started in the CRM and integration space with a sole focus on healthcare. And we chose this path for a couple reasons. One, everyone here genuinely likes helping people who help people. Right. The second part is we quickly realized with integrating EHRs, systems like Athena and AMD and Kipu, Homecare Homebase, Dr. Chronos, Central Reach, et cetera, integrating front-end systems like a CRM with back-end systems are absolutely key in helping streamline your workflows and better serve your patients. And I think, right, what's pretty interesting about healthcare, we've all been on the other side of the desk, right? We've all been a patient. We've taken our kids to the doctor, our parents to specialists. And I think we know in that moment of need, the last thing you want to be dealing with is administrative friction, right? You don't want to deal with your healthcare provider the same way you deal with Verizon or Xfinity or AT&T, right? It's not cable, it's your health. So the bottom line is seamless communication and data integration aren't really nice to haves in healthcare. They're essential to patient care. And so what Monday.com allows us to do is take all that industry knowledge that we've learned over the years and bundle it into a pretty powerful solution, and then send the elevator back down, so to speak, right, to help skip a lot of those growing pains. And the person who's been leading that charge from our team on the front lines is our VP of Delivery, Kristen. So, Kristen, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So traditionally in healthcare technology, what have we seen, right? We've seen enterprise CRM, which have a lot of feature and functionality, but with that comes complexity. And typically what we see is that organizations only use 20 to 30% of those platforms that they're paying for. They carry hefty price tags, they have long implementation timelines, and then there's usually kind of an ongoing cost and tremendous learning curve when we think about the ongoing maintenance and administration of those systems. EHRs, EMRs, practice management systems will always have a place in healthcare technology, right? That's your clinical system of record. And that's what that's for, right? The clinical workflows, encounters, care plans, claims, billing. And even though some of them may have kind of a CRM flavor that's been added, it's typically an afterthought. They don't excel when we think about what a CRM does excel at, right? Whether it's patient engagement, communication, reporting, right? So again, have their place. That's the clinical system. Spreadsheets, for better or for worse, are always still something that we encounter in the healthcare space. And, they do a good job of capturing data and storing data. However, they don't store it in a structured way. They're not secure. They're not HIPAA compliant. We can't do a lot of reporting, right? We can't get actionable insights out of our data when it's stored in a spreadsheet. But what the provider solution built on the Monday.com platform allows us to do is still leverage those core CRM features and functions around engagement, communications, reporting, AI, automations, right? But on a platform that is a lot more easy to implement. So we're not looking at a 6-month implementation timeline. We're looking, 10 to 12 weeks. It's a much more friendly cost point, and you still get all the features, right? So we can still do all those things that we need to do to make sure that we keep our patients engaged and get them into treatment quickly. So our solution specifically, we're going to focus on 3 core workflows. The first is referral management. So you think about kind of that very top of the funnel. We've got potential patients being referred into us, whether from another provider, a former patient, a current patient, right? And we want to make sure that we've got a patient that has interest. We want to make sure that we are communicating with them at an appropriate amount of time, right? That they're not calling back, that they're not falling through the cracks, that we are kind of mitigating that referral leakage. Once we get through kind of that initial qualification, right? Do we have capacity to treat? Do we take their insurance? Are we in the right geography? Do we offer the right services? Then we move into patient intake, right? So think about kind of that next step where maybe we're going to do a level of care assessment. We're going to send the patient a questionnaire. We are going to request medical records or something about diagnoses, right? And again, that can all be handled on the Monday.com platform. It allows us to automate a lot of these processes, do exception reporting, right? Making sure that we're not missing any steps, and we're really tracking this patient through their journey. And then the last piece is that integration with the EHR. Kevin mentioned earlier, what does having an AWS partner have to do with this? That is where we have built and manage our middleware tool. So Air Connect is a middleware built on the AWS platform that allows us to connect the CRM to your clinical system, right? And so as the patient has gone through that journey, the last step is we need to make sure that we create their chart or their medical record in the EMR, in the EHR. This makes sure that we're eliminating or significantly reducing swivel chair, manual re-entry, right? It's ensuring data integrity and just making sure that the data is where it needs to be when people need to access it, right? So as we get through the referral intake process, and now we're ready for the clinical workflows to start, that patient is where they need to be in the clinical system. So healthcare, right? Pretty vague term, right? So you might be thinking, will this work for me, right? And so where we've seen success, you think about organizations that are hospitals, that are clinics, that are MCOs, that are general practitioners, right? Very patient-facing. We've seen success there. Also in specialty care providers. So think ABA therapy, mental health, physical therapy, digital health coaching, as well as nursing and home health. So whether it's palliative care, hospice, kind of GP services at a nursing home and assisted living, chronic care management, in-home health services, all of those we've seen success on the platform leveraging the solution. And with that, let's get into the good stuff. I'm going to pass to Diana. She's going to take us on a tour through the provider solution.
Thank you. All right, so before we jump into the platform, let's set the stage with our use case for today's demo. This is Beacon Health, a home healthcare provider. Like many of the organizations that we work with, Beacon Health's intake team is currently experiencing significant operational friction. They're slowed down by error-prone swivel chair manual data entry in Excel. They struggle with slow processing times, have difficulty maintaining a clear communication history, and suffer from limited insights into critical business metrics. So today we're going to show you how the Monday provider solution helps Beacon Health completely transform their workflow. We will demonstrate how they can automate manual work and avoid duplicate tasks by eliminating that swivel chair through EHR integration. We will also show how they can streamline the intake process, conversion, and increase conversions to by leveraging the Monday AI and reducing the time coordinators spend reviewing referrals. And then finally, we'll take a look at pre-built dashboards that can give them instant visibility into improving forecasting and growth. So to bring this to life, we're going to step into the shoes of Beacon Health's intake team and follow the journey of their newest prospective patient, Susan Myers. All right. So welcome to the Monday.com Healthcare Provider Workspace. On the left-hand side, you can see our navigation menu containing our primary boards and dashboards. This solution was purposefully built for healthcare providers to manage the intake of referrals and seamlessly guide them through that admissions process. Everything starts on this referrals board, which funnels in new requests from multiple sources. So things like fax, emails, phone calls, and even web forms submitted by referring providers or patients reaching out themselves. So let's take a look at how Susan Myers will enter our system. Here's a customizable Monday.com web form that is currently embedded on Beacon Health's website for a referring provider to fill out. So here I've entered in Susan Myers' name, date of birth, phone number, email address. I've also added in her gender, her location, insurance information, what services she's interested in. In this case, it's our home health service line. And then the referring practice information, as well as the provider. Once all of that's filled in, we'll click submit. And pulling up our referrals board again, as soon as that form was submitted, we can see that the data was immediately pushed in here. So here's our Susan Myers record. In the background, automations are running to clean up the data using pre-built and as well as using pre-built assignment rules to assign this referral to the appropriate intake coordinator. I also wanted to note that in the bottom right corner, our AI agent, Elena, has been at work here on the board. So this AI agent is automatically flagging referrals that might have missing data, classifying them based on that information. So leveraging that AI functionality really significantly reduces the time that our coordinators are using, spending time manually looking at the data, cleaning up the data to ensure data correctness. So here's that widget here in the bottom right corner. And we can see that our Susan Myers record has moved down into a different classification because of the agent doing its work. So as we scroll down, Susan Myers classified in the missing data category. So some piece of information was missing from her record, and I can open up her item page to get a better view of what's happening here with our Susan's record. So here we have our overview tab, which highlights her status at the top. On the left-hand side is her activity feed. This is where I can communicate with Susan via email by connecting Google or Outlook. I can also log interactions such as phone calls or SMS communication. And on the right-hand side, I can continually update her data as I learn more about Susan or gather more information. The updates feed I will also show. This is where our AI agent, Elena, has given me an easy to use checklist to identify what were those issues or what were those data points missing. So I can see things like zip code were missing and HIPAA consent hasn't been completed yet. So it gives your intake team, your intake coordinators, a quick checklist to go through and validate the data before moving Susan through the process there. So let's go ahead and assume I've reached out here to Susan. I'm going to go ahead and change her status to contacted. And during that conversation, I received her insurance card. So I'm going to go down and find that insurance card field. And from there, I can upload that insurance card. And now that is attached to her record. So easily updating data points here on the record is as simple as a click of a button. Right. So since she's now classified as contacted, I can go down into my contacted grouping and I can see Susan's record. So let's say I have everything I need from Susan, and now it's time for her to be converted. I'll set her status as qualified, and then I'll go ahead and click this Convert to Patient button. What this is going to do is move Susan out of the referrals section and into our patients board. So let's head over there now. So here we're on our patients board. This is storing patients who are in the intake process or actively under care or even discharged. Because healthcare often involves multiple instances of care over time, this solution separates the overarching patient record from specific patient intake records, which are used to manage the process before they're admitted. And so with that, we'll click this Start Intake button. And automations again are running to create the intake record for Susan. And they will also change her status to Intake in Progress right here on the board. And you can see that that moved down here into our Intake in Progress grouping. So let's go over to our patient intake board. So on the patient intake board, this is where our clinical team can perform assessments. Our intake team can gather additional consents or have the patient fill out questionnaires to finalize the intake. So we have a variety of data points that are here on this board for that purpose. So uploading questionnaires or completing assessments using Monday documentation. And all of this can be customized for your needs. So this is our solution out of the box, but using Monday's easy to use capabilities to customize and automate further is a perfect way to layer on and make this unique for your company. All right, so let's say that Susan's intake is complete. I will now change her status to admitted. And using Monday.com CRM functionality for validation, this form has shown up to require certain data points before that admission can happen. So I can go ahead and select her treatment type is home health. I can select her care location and choose her admission date of today. Once I click save, that will change her status to admitted. And if I come back to our patients board, I will choose my active patients view. I can see Susan Myers' status has changed to patient. Our final step that eliminates that dreaded swivel chair manual entry between the CRM and your EHR EMR system is by clicking this button. So by clicking push to EMR, this will integration, sending this record over to our EMR system. And in a moment, the created date and the medical record number for Susan will populate. So to wrap up our demonstration, let's take a look at our referral dashboard. So this automatically aggregates all of this intake and referral data to give Beacon Health's leadership real-time visibility into their operations. So at a glance, you can instantly track things like the status of your referral pipeline, visualize the patient breakdown by service line. You can see key metrics such as average days to conversion, the average age of your referrals, and then breaking that down further by your intake coordinator. You can also see top referral sources and referrals by state. These data points are critical for helping you to determine which partnerships are really benefiting your business. And you can use that to drive, you can use this dashboard, customize it even further to really drive that organizational growth. All right, so to wrap up our demonstration, let's look at the immediate impact this solution has on manual bottlenecks. So first, we completely eliminate that swivel chair by automating tasks from the referral through the intake stage, as well as that integration with your EHR. Second, we're reducing time your coordinators are spending processing referrals by leveraging AI, leveraging automations within the system to really review those referrals for data correctness, accelerating that pipeline and really increasing those conversions. And then finally, we used the pre-built dashboards to give your leadership team that instant real-time visibility. So by automatically visualizing critical metrics like average time to conversion and your top referral sources, you're fully equipped to really forecast staffing needs, manage organizational growth, and see that success in your business. So with that, I'll pass it back to Kevin to lead our Q&A session.
Hey, great job. Did we just have a live demo with no glitches? Look at that. That's a mic drop moment in and of itself. All right, I'll field some questions. I'll try to take the easier ones and we'll pass to the team for others. Please keep submitting. Here's one. Is the platform truly HIPAA compliant? Yes. All right, I got that one. Does this replace or integrate with our existing EMR? We definitely want to integrate versus replace. I don't know if, Kristen, you want to elaborate on kind of how we think about that. That'd be super helpful.
Yeah, so this is not intended to replace your EMR. It is not a certified EMR, right? There's a special category of applications that fit in that bucket. This is the CRM, again, to facilitate referral management, patient intake, the preclinical workflows, and then the ongoing patient engagement, kind of facilitating persistence on treatment. Integrating the systems, again, let's use the systems, what they're intended for, what they're best for. EMRs are clinical systems, CRM are engagement systems. And so best practice is to connect them. The goal would not be to replace.
And you can see why I passed to Kristen. All right, let's see, I have another one here. How does scheduling fit into this solution? So sometimes folks want to continue to schedule out of the EHR, and if that's how you operate, great. We can help pull back information into the CRM. There is, and I think we actually have it here. We do have a scheduling tool on the Monday Marketplace. You can search for that today, right? We know that is a need. Scheduling is a big thing, so to speak, right, in your world. So depending on where you want to schedule out of, we can work with you to determine, hey, if it's working in the HR, great. Or if we need the team, the admissions or intake team, they're doing the scheduling coordinating and they need to have access to it in Monday, there's a scheduling tool that we built right within Monday. So that was one I cherry picked. That was a great question. Let's see, we have, what does implementation and adoption actually look like? So I guess, Kristen, maybe I'll point back to you for this one in relation to implementation and onboarding. What does all that look like? And maybe you could address Gina's question there as well, because that's kind of part of it.
Yeah, so as we think about implementation, we'll start with discovery, right? Understanding what your specific workflows and processes are so that we can customize the solution to fit your needs. As we go through that, right, it's very iterative, it's very interactive. Coming out of discovery, we'll do small iterations of build, test, right? Build, test, rinse, and repeat as we go. So you can get hands on the application, make sure navigation makes sense. You're seeing what you expect to see, or people aren't seeing what we don't want them to see. And then as we move through that, right, we'll go through user acceptance testing, kind of one final front to back of the system, make sure everything's working as expected, including the integration if that's part of our scope. We'll move into training. We create custom training decks for each of our clients, making sure that we've got your business context layered in, screenshots of your instance, right? Make it really relevant to your user group. And then we'll go through go live, and we always include post go live support, making sure that in the 3 to 4 weeks after your go live, we've still got our project team intact, and we're able to provide kind of that hypercare to make sure that we are, getting adoption and working through the change management side.
Awesome, and this might be a good follow-up, and I'll get back to the Serbo question in a second here. Is data migration included in the solution? So, Kristen, back to you.
Yeah, so data migration is always part of our implementations. Obviously, if we are going live on the Monday.com platform, we want your relevant data there, right? If you've got referrals in a spreadsheet and we've got patients in your EMR, right, we need to make sure that we get them represented in the CRM. We do, guess another plug, we have a data alert tool on the marketplace as well that sometimes we leverage. But certainly, whether we need that or not, we do want to understand what your existing data sets look like. How clean are they? Do we have multiple data sets that we need to blend together, making sure we're putting clean, complete data into the CRM as we move towards go live.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Kristen. To be clear, though, the way Monday operates, you can use this template without us. If you have the internal knowledge or time, quite frankly, we can upload or help upload this workspace into your Monday and allow you to do it. You don't need to rely on us. You can if you want, but again, this is something that you can manipulate as needed on your own. That's some of the beauty of Monday. In relation to the Serbo question, so on a quick search, yes. And the reason I say search, we're not worried about Monday. It has open APIs, it's HIPAA compliant, it plays nicely with others. There's hundreds of EMRs. Some are good, some are great, some are terrible. With what we typically look at, like with Serbo, it does look like it has open APIs. They have available documentation, which allows us to read and say, okay, what can we push into the system? What can we pull out? So what we'll go through is, hey, what do you need to push in? What do you need to pull out? And match it up against what's available in the EHR. So at a quick glance, yes, very promising. We'd have to dive into, is it demographic information? Is it scheduling information? Insurance? What is that information you want to pass back and forth? But at a glance, it looks very doable. And then one more here before we wrap up. We want to try to keep this on time. How are you integrating with your EMR? Is it through API processes? Someone smarter than me, please take that one.
It could be. A lot of it's going to depend on what the EMR has available to us, what the different connectivity options are. So it could be API, it could be an HL7 interface, it could be Fire. Sometimes it's file-based, right? And they don't allow us to access directly into the EMR, and so we have to hook into like an underlying data warehouse that might be connected to the EMR EHR. So we have lots of options. That's part of what we will go through as we go through kind of scoping in discovery, is what are our options to connect with your specific EMR.
Ooh, and just like that, we are at time. So thank you, everybody. We're going to email out a link to the recording so you can reference and share it. Share with whoever you may need. If interested in downloading the solution, our info is on the screen and it'll be attached in the email, right? Sales at Consult.ch, or check out the website and fill out a form to get in touch with us, and you'll speak to the people that were actually on this call. So that's pretty cool. Or reach out to your Monday rep. They know us too. Other than that, thanks for joining. Have an awesome rest of week, and look forward to connecting with you all. Thanks, everybody.